Good day guys, you are welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Salami Titilopadeni and the topic we are looking at today is trigonometry. And what is the meaning of trigonometry? We need to know that trigonometry is coined from two Greek words which are what? Trigono and what? And the metrian. And when we are talking of the trigono, what is the meaning of trigono? Trigono means triangle. And what is the meaning of metrian? Metrian means what? Measurement. And when we are talking of the measurement of triangle can be in three forms. It can be in terms of its angles, it can be in terms of its sides, it can be in terms of its angles and sides. So what is the meaning of trigonometry now? Trigonometry means what? The measurement of triangle with respect to their angles, the sides, the angles, and the sides. So these are the three things we want to look at when we are talking of what? Of the trigonometry. Now let us pick the measurement of angles. So when we are talking of the measurement of angles, for now, we want to look at the conversion. And when we are talking of the conversion, what is the meaning of the conversion we are talking of here? We want to look at how to convert degrees to minutes and seconds. And also we want to look at how to convert angles in minutes and seconds to what? To degree. And also we want to look at how to convert an angle in degree to radian. And also we want to look at how to convert an angles in radian to what? To a degree. So these are the four things we want to look at when we are talking of the conversion of angles. So let's start from with the first two, and that is what? The conversion of angles to minutes and vice versa. We need to know that anytime we are having prime stands for what? For minutes. And anytime we are having prime stands for what? For seconds. And also we need to know that anytime you are converting an angle to minutes, what are we going to do? You multiply the angle by what? By 60. And also we need to know that anytime we are converting an angle to seconds, what are we going to do? We multiply the angle by what? By 60 and 60. That means anytime we want to convert a seconds to minutes, you multiply by 60. But if you are multiplying seconds to angle, you multiply it by 60 and 60. And also the vice versa will now be the conversion of minutes and seconds to what? To a degree. And if you want to convert minutes to a degree, that means we are going to divide it by 60. And if you want to convert a seconds to a degree, that means you are going to divide it by what? A multiplier effect of what? Of 60 and 60. Do we get that? It's simple. For instance, let us start with this. They say we should convert 27 degree 15 minutes to an angle in form of what? Of a degree form. So how can we solve this? That means we have it as 27 degree. That means 15 minutes to degree. That means we have to divide it by what? By 60. And if you solve this, what do we have? 15 divided by 60. And that will give us what? 27 degree plus 0.25 degree. And that will give us what? 27.25 degree. Do we get that? It's simple. Now let's look at this again. They say we should convert 141 degree 17 minutes and let's say 36 seconds to degree. So how can we solve this? That means this man is already in degree form. That means 17 minutes to seconds, to degree. You divide it by 60. And 16 seconds to what? To degree. You divide it by a multiplier effect of what? Of 60 and 60. And solve this. What do we have? We have it as 17 divided by 60 plus what? Plus 36 divided by what? 60 times 60. And that will give us what? 141.29 degree. So it's very simple. We need to know that anytime we are converting minutes to what degree, you divide it by what? By 60. And anytime you are converting a seconds to degree, you divide it by what? A multiplier effect of what? Of 60 and what? And 60. Now let us now look at how to convert an angle in form of what? Of degree to minute and what? And seconds. So how can we solve this? That means this man is an angle in degree. So what are we going to have? We have it as what? 51 whole number. That is an whole number degree. And that will give us what? 51 whole number plus what do we have left? We are left with what? 0.2958. And that is what? The degree form. And how can you convert it to minutes? You convert it by what? You multiply it by what? By 60. And this will give us what? 51 plus 0.2958 times 60. What will it give us? It gives us 17.748 minutes. And this will also give us 51 degree plus what is the whole number fraction of the minute? That will give us 17 minutes plus what? 0.478 times what? 60. We convert the minute to seconds again. And that will give us what? 51 degree, 17 seconds, 0.748 times 60. What will it give us? It will give us what? 45 seconds. Do we get that? So it's simple. And that is that about that. So we have looked at how to convert angles in degree form to what? To minutes and seconds and vice versa. Now let us now look at how to convert what? Radian to what? To angles. And how to convert an angles to what? To radian. And what do we need to know? We must know that when we are talking of a complete revolution is 360 degree. And 360 degree is equals to what? 2 pi what? Pi r. Do we get that? And when we are talking, this is the basis. That is, a complete revolution is 360 degree. And it is termed as what? As 2 pi what? Pi r. And from this, we need to note two things. That 1 degree is equals to, you divide 2 by what? 360. 1 degree will give us what? 2 pi rad over what? Over 360. That means 1 degree will give us what? Pi rad over what? Over 180. And when we are talking of 1 radian, what is 1 radian? You divide 2 by what? By 2 pi. And that will give us what? 360 over what? Over 2 pi. That means 1 radian will give us what? 180 over what? Over pi. Do we get that? It's simple. Now let's look at this. They say we should convert pi over 12 radian to degree. So how can you convert pi over 12 radian to degree? That means the basis is 1 radian. And that will give us pi over 12 radian will be equals to what? Pi over 12 times what is 1 radian? 180 over what? Over pi. And pi will cancel pi. So what is 180 over 12? 180 over 12 will give us what? 15 degree. Do we get that? It's simple. Now let's look at this again. How can you convert pi over 5 radian to a number in degree? So that means what is the basis? This is the basis, and that will give us pi over 5 times what? Times 180 over pi. And that will give us what? 36 degree. So it's simple. Do we get that? And that is that about the conversion. Now let us look at how to convert an angle to what? To radian. And what is the basis? We have said that 1 degree is equals to what? Pi rad over what? Over 180 degree. For instance, let's look at how to convert 270 degree to radian. What are we going to have? 270 degree. This is the basis, 1 degree. And that will give us what? 270 times what? Pi rad over what? Over 180. And that will give us 270 divided by 180. And that will give us what? 3 over 2 pi rad. And that will give us what? One whole number, 1 over 2 pi rad. Do we get that? It's simple. Don't forget, it depends on the nature of your final answer. Do we get that? Because we can still solve it by multiplying our 3.142 by what? By 1.5. And for instance, again, let us look at this. We are to convert minus 142 degree 30 minutes to what? To radian. Wow. So how can we solve this? That means we need to convert this man to what? To degree entirely. And how can you convert it to degree? Minutes to degree. That means we are going to divide it by 60. And this will give us what? Minus 142 what? 0.5 degree. So that means this is now the degree you want to convert to radian. And if you want to convert this to radian, what is the basis? The basis for 1 degree is what? Is pi rad over what? Over 180 degree. Now let us solve this by leaving our final answer only in radian, and then we remove the pi. That means just use your calculator. Minus 142.5 times what is your pi? Your pi is 3.142 divided by what? By 180. And that will give us what? Minus 2.4874 what? Radian. And that is all about that. Do we get it? So we have looked at how to convert degree to minutes and seconds, and also how to convert minutes and seconds to what? To degree. We have looked at how to convert what? Pi rad to what? To degree. We have looked at how to convert degree to what? To radian. Now we want to look at the meaning of the trigonometric ratio and their inverse. Now when we are talking of the trigonometric ratio, we all know them. What is the meaning of trigonometric ratio? That is talking about the so, ka what? Ka tra. And when we are talking of the so, that is what? Sin theta. And we all know that sin theta is what? Opposite over what? Hypotenuse. And what is your ka? Your ka is what? Cos. And that is what? Adjacent over what? Hypotenuse. And what is the meaning of tan? Tan is what? Our opposite over what? Over adjacent. But what you need to know is what? Their inverse. Anytime you are talking of the inverse of sine, we need to know that the inverse of sine is what? Is cosec theta. And that will give us what? The hypotenuse over what? Over the opposite. And when we are talking of the inverse of cos, the inverse of cos is what? Is sec theta. And that is what? The hypotenuse over what? Over adjacent. And when we are talking of the inverse of tan, the inverse of tan is what? Is cos theta. And that is what? The adjacent over what? Over opposite. So when we are talking of the trigonometric ratio, we are talking of the sine, the cos, and the tan. And also their inverse. The inverse of sine is cosec. The inverse of cos is what? Is sec. The inverse of tan is what? Is cot. And that is what we need to note under that. Now, also, before we proceed, we also want to look at what we term as the special angles. And when we are talking of the special angles, we need to know that we have 5 types of special angles in mathematics. And these are the types of the special angles. Special angles are angles that we cannot do without in mathematics. And we have 5 of them. So we want to look at how to get the sine, the cos, the tan, the cosec, the sec, and the cot of all these angles without making use of calculator. Though we can still make use of calculator, but our answer now, we prefer it to be in terms of what? Of short form. Now, we have to arrange them. That means we have it as what? 0, 30. We have it as 45. We have it as what? 60. And also we have it as what? As 90. So these are the 5 types of special angles. But one thing they usually tell us when we were still young is anytime you give birth to a bouncing baby boy, what will you do? You will do naming ceremony after 7 or 8 days. That means the first thing we have to do here is what? Is naming. So the name we are going to give to 0 is 0. Because 0 in mathematics is useless. This is the first real angle. This is the second real angle. this is the third real angle, and this is the fourth real angle. So after the naming, the principle is asking us to divide through by 4, though it's actually a shortcut. So if you divide through by 4, 0 over 4 will give us 0, this will give us 1 over 4, 2 over 4 will give us 1 over 2, this will give us 3 over 4, 4 over 4 will give us 1. And then after dividing through by 4, sign will now come in. And what is the meaning of sign? Sign means the square root. That means find the square root of the last line. What is the root of 0? 0. This one will give us 1 over 2. This will give us 1 over root 2. And you know this man is a taboo undersort. And that will give us the square root of 2 over 2. This will give us what? The root of 3 over 2. This will give us 1. That is why sin 0 is 0, sin 30 is this, and so on and so forth. And when we are talking of cos, what is the meaning of cos? Cos simply means reverse. That means you reverse the last line. That will give us 1, the root of 3, the root of 2 over 2, 1 over 2, and we have it as 0. And then our tan will now come in. And what is tan? We need to know that tan is having a formula which is what? Sin theta over what? Over cos theta. So what is 0 over 1? That will give us 0. This over this will give us 1 over root 3. And that will give us what? Root 3 over 3. This over this, they are the same. That will give us 1. And this over this will give us the square root of 3. 1 over 0 in mathematics is what? Is mathematical error. And that is what? That is infinity. And this is the table that will help us to get the sign of 0, the sign of 30, 45, 60, and 90, also with their cos, and what? And tan. So that is that about the special angles. So that means if we want to look for the tan of 60, we don't need to be making use of calculator. All what we just need to do is to make use of what? Of the table. And that will now bring us to what we term as what? A complementary angle. Complementary angle. And when we are talking of complementary angle, what is the meaning of complementary angle? This one is giving us theta 1 and this one is giving us theta 2. We need to know that complementary angle means that if two angles are complementary to each other, or if two angles are in complementary form, it means that their sum is equal to 90 degrees. Do we get that? So when they are talking of complementary angles, the sum of the angles is what? Is 90. So that means theta 1 plus theta 2 is going to give us what? Is going to give us 90. And theta 1 is what? Is 90 degree minus theta 2. And what is your theta 2? That is what? 90 degree minus theta 1. And that makes them to be what? To be complementary. And since they are complementary, you know anything that is in complementary form will have what? Something we term as what? A relationship. So because of complementary angles, that is why we are having the relationship between the sine, the cos, and so on and so forth. And when we are talking of the relationship, we need to know that sine 90 minus theta is equal to what? Cos theta. Don't forget, from that table, go and check it very well. You will see that the value of sine 30 is the same thing as what? As cos 60, just because they are complementary. You will see that the value of sine 45 is the same thing as what? As cos 45, just because they are complementary. And that will bring us to the relationship. And the relationship is what? Is sine 90 minus theta, which is going to give us what? Cos theta. We have it as what? Cos 90 minus theta, and that will give us what? Sin theta. And also we have it as what? Tan 90 minus theta, and this will give us what? Cos theta. Do we get that? And also their inverse is still the same thing. That means the inverse of sine is what? Is cosec. That will give us cosec 90 minus theta is equals to what? What is the inverse of this? That will give us sec theta. And also sec 90 minus theta is equals to what? Cosec theta. What is the inverse of tan? That will give us what? Cos 90 minus theta is equals to what? Tan theta. Do we get that? Complementary angle leading to what? To their relationship. And that is that about that. Now let us try to solve few questions under this. And the question we have to solve here is this. They say find the equivalent Find the equivalent of the following. Now, the first man is sine 25. We are still coming to quadrants. It's very, very interesting. So, what is the equivalent of sine 25? That means sine 25 is going to give us what? Cos 90 minus theta. That is what? 90 minus 25. And that will give us what? Cos what? Cos 65. So if you press your calculator, the value of sine 25 and the value of cos 65 are the same. Now let us look at this again. We have tan 20. What is tan 20? We know what is the complementary of tan. That is cos. And that will give us what? 90 minus 20. And what is 90 minus 20? That will give us what? Cos 70. And also let us look at this. What is the equivalent of sec 50? So what is the complementary of sec? That will give us what? Cosec. And that will give us 90 minus 50. And that will give us what? Cosec 40. Do we get that? It's simple. And that is all about complementary angles. Now, let us move on again. And we will now look at the basis of what? Of quadrants. So what is the meaning of quadrants? Quadrant simply means 4. That means we are dividing a point into 4 different segments. So that means when we are talking of a point, what is the angle around a point? That is what? 360. But there are a lot of things we want to look at under the quadrants. The first thing is what? We have something we term as what? As the cast. We have cast. Some textbooks or some tutors will teach you all science teachers are crazy. But it's not good to abuse. All science teachers are crazy. We are not crazy. So that means just know the meaning of what? Of cast. Do we get that? So that means we have it as well. C-A-S and what? And T. So the first thing you need to know is this is what we term as the first quadrant. This is what we term as what? The second quadrant. This is what we term as what? The third quadrant. This is what we term as what? As the fourth quadrant. Do we get it? Now, what are the things happening? Separate things are happening around these quadrants. So, what is the meaning of first quadrant? We are having A. A stands for what? All. That means all are positive. That means your sine is positive, your cos is positive, and your tan is positive. But note, all tutors fails to tell us something. That this first quadrant is only where we are having the relationship between the sine, the cos, and all of them. So that means on the first quadrant, what we have is what? Is a relationship between the trigonometric function. That means your sine cannot give us sine. Your sine will give us cos. Your cos cannot give us cos. Your cos will give us sine. Do we get that? So that means here, no trigonometric function will be equal to itself. No. It is termed as what? As a relationship segment. Do we get it? Now, this first quadrant again, we need to know that the angle combination is 90 minus theta. This second quadrant, we need to know that the angle combination here is what? Is 180 minus theta. This third quadrant, we need to know that the angle combination there is theta minus 180. And some textbook also will use it as what? As 180 plus theta. And this first quadrant, we need to know that we are having it as what? 360 minus theta. This quadrant is very, very interesting. They said, what is the meaning of quadrants? You divide a point into 4. We have 4 quadrants. Cast. Not all science teachers are crazy. This man means all. That is the first quadrant. And that is where the relationship occurs. And that is where what we have been looking at. Sine 90 minus theta is equal to what? Cos theta. Do we get that? And all those. And that means what is the angle combination here? The angle combination here is what? Is 90 minus theta. The angle combination here is what? Is 180 minus theta. And this is having it as what? As sine. This means what? Only tan is positive. All others are negative. Theta minus 180, 180 plus theta, only cos is what? Is positive. Do we get that? So that means when we are now talking of the second, the third, and the fourth, there is no relationship again. Do we get that? So since there is no relationship, it now means what? Sine will not lead to sine. Do we get that? Cos will lead to cos. not the other way around. Now let us now look at the basis of quadrants and let's see what is happening on each section. Now what is the meaning of first quadrant? That means we are talking of angle combination or angle ranges of 0 to 90. And we have said it that the angle on the first quadrant is what? 90 minus what? Theta. Now, what is now the meaning? That means cos 90 minus sin 90 minus theta is equals to what? Cos theta. That means cos 90 minus theta is equals to what? Sin theta. That means tan 90 minus theta is equals to what? Cos theta. We have said that that is the only segment that what? Relationship occur. And now, moving on to the second quadrant. What is the meaning of second quadrant? That is angle combination between what? 90 and what? And 180 degree. And we have said it. What? Cast. That means what? Only sign is positive. Now, what is the meaning? That means if we have it as sine, what is the angle combination there? We say it is what? 180 minus theta. That means sine 180 minus theta will not give us cos theta. No, it will give us sine theta. Do we get it? But on that segment, what is the meaning? We said only sine is positive. That means sine 180 minus theta is equals to what? Sine theta. And that means what? Cos 180 minus theta is equals to what? Minus cos theta. And when we have it as tan 180 minus theta, that will give us what? Minus tan theta. Do we get that? And that also applies to all other quadrants. Let's look at it. The third quadrant. What is the angle combination on the third quadrant? The angle between what? 180 to what? 270. And we have said it that it is what? It is theta minus what? 180 or 180 plus theta. Anyone. So that means we can have it as either of these. And that means we have it as what? Sine. Don't let me confuse you. Don't forget past. So that means the third quadrant, we are talking of this. And only tan is what? Is positive. That will give us what? Sine theta minus 180 to give us what? Don't forget, tan alone is positive. That will give us minus sine theta. Cos theta minus 180 or 180 plus theta will give us what? Minus cos theta. And also tan theta minus 180 will now give us what? Tan theta. Just because only tan is what? Is positive. And lastly, for the fourth quadrant, that is what? Angle combination between 270 and what? And 360. And only cos is positive. That means sine 360 minus theta is minus sine theta. That means cos 360 minus theta is equals to what? Cos theta. Because only cos is positive. And that means tan 360 minus theta is equals to what? Minus tan theta. Do we get that? It's simple. Now let's now look at examples under this. So let's look at examples under the quadrant. And when we are talking of the quadrant, let's look at this. They say find the equivalent of the following. And here we are having it as sine 120. So the first thing we have to do is to draw our quadrant cast. And we have here as what? 90 minus theta, 180 minus theta, 180 plus theta, or theta minus 180, and we have it as what? 360 minus theta. Now, it's simple. What is the equivalent of this? What is 120? 120 falls where? On the second quadrant. And on the second quadrant, only sine is positive. That means this will give us what? Sine. What is the angle combination? 180 minus what? 120. And that will give us what? Sine 60. And from the special angle, what is sine 60? Sine 60 is what? Root 3 over 2. It's simple. Now let's look at this again. What is the equivalent of cos 315? Do we get that? Now let's look at this. Where does 315 belongs to? 315 belongs to the first quadrant. And that makes cos to be what? To be positive. And this will give us what? Cos 360 minus 315. And what is 360 minus 315? That will give us what? 45. And what is cos 45? That will give us what? Root 2 over 2. It's simple. Now let's now look at this. They said we should find the expression of sine 510. Wow. So what is 510? That means 510 is not on the quadrant. That means it will complete a revolution. That is 360. Do we get that? And if after completing a revolution, what do you have left? That will give us 510 minus what? 360. Do we get it? Are we getting it? So that will give us what? 150. So that means what we are having left is to trace what? Sine 150. And where does 150 belongs to? 150 belongs to the second quadrant. And that makes our sine to be positive. And what is the angle combination? 180 minus 150. And what do we have? Sine 30. And what is sine 30? That will give us what? 1 over 2. And let me end this with this small question. What is the equivalent of sine 60? We have said it, that this lies on the first quadrant. It will not change to cos, because on the first quadrant, what we have basically is what? Is a relationship between angles. And this will lead us towards cos 90 minus 60. And that will give us cos 30. And what is cos 30? Cos 30 is sine 60. And what is cos 30? That will give us what? The square root of 2. So just for the sake of this video, we'll be looking at the last aspects under trigonometry for this first class. And what we want to look at lastly is what we term as the negative angle. So when we are talking of the negative angle, we are talking of the effect of negative on angles. And we need to know that negative angles falls on the first quadrant. For instance, we have this, and this is cast. But one thing you need to know is the effect of negative angle on trigonometric function will lead us to something we term as a reduction formula. And just one thing you need to note is the effect of negative on trigonometric function. What will it give us? We need to know that sine under trigonometry, sine is a nice man and tan is a nice man, but cos is a very stingy man. That means sine will accept the negative. That means if we have sine minus theta, it will give us what? Minus sine theta. And if we have it as what? Cos minus theta, you can convert it to positive angle and it will give us what? Cos theta. And this will give us what? Minus tan theta. Do we get it? So this is the effect of a negative angle on what? On trigonometric function. So now, for example, let us look at the following. We have tan minus 210. We have cos minus 315. We have sine minus 120. We have minus sine 90 plus beta. And we have sine 2 pi plus alpha. Don't let me use plus. Let me use minus alpha. So what will this one give us? The effect of negative on trigonometric function. Don't forget where we came from. Cast. Are we? And that is what? 90 minus theta. 180 minus theta. Theta minus 180. And what? 360 minus theta. Now, solving for tan minus 210. Forget about the fact that it will move clockwise. No, forget about that. The first thing is, what is the effect of negative on tan? Minus tan 210. Are you getting that? And then you tackle 210. So that means, where is 210? 210 is on the third quadrant. And what happens on the third quadrant? Your tan is positive. That means minus tan. What is tan 210? That will give us what? Tan 210 minus 180. And that will give us what? Minus tan 30. And what is tan 30? That will give us what? Root 3 over what? over 3. Do we get that? It's simple. So that means if you use your calculator to press this and you press this, you will still get the same answer. And that is that for what? For time. Do we get it? Now let us look for the next one. For the next one, we are having it as well cos minus 315. Forget about the fact that it's moving clockwise. What will happen to the minus? Cos will never accept the minus. And where does 315 falls? It falls on the first quadrant. And that will give us cos 360 minus 315. And that will give us what? Cos 45. And what is cos 45? That will give us 1 over root 2. And that is what? Root 2 over 2. It's simple. And also the same thing, you can solve for this. Sine will accept the minus. Minus sine 120. Where does 120 falls? It falls on what? On the second quadrant. And that means, what do we have? Sine 180 minus 120 is what? Is 60. Do we get that? And what is the answer? Minus root 3 over 2. It's simple. Now, let us try to solve these two questions. Now, they said we should find the value of minus sine 90 plus beta. But the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, do we have an angle called 90 plus beta? No. That means we have to manipulate to change this one to what? Minus beta. Do we get that? Minus beta. And this man is what? Is a complementary angle, 90 minus theta. And what will it change to? It will change to what? Cos theta. And what is your theta? Your theta is minus beta. Do we get it? And what is the effect of negative on cos? Will cos accept that minus? No. And that will give us what? Minus cos theta. It's simple. And lastly, let us look at this. We have it as what? Sine 2 pi minus alpha. So what is pi? When we are talking of angle, pi is what? Is 180. That will give us what? 360 minus alpha. And what is 360 minus alpha? What are we going to have? Let's talk. So sine 360 minus theta, it falls on the fourth quadrant, and that means your sine is what? Is negative. And that will give us what? Minus sine alpha. So that is where we are going to call it a day for today. So far so good, we have looked at the elementary aspects of trigonometry. And in our subsequent video, we'll be looking at what are the basic trig identities. My name still remains Salami Titilopadeni. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and please don't forget to click on that subscription button. I love you. Thank you.